There's something that truly gets under my skin and keeps me up at night when I think about how most people handle their hard-earned cash. It's watching people treat the stock market like a neon-lit slot machine in Vegas, throwing their money at the screen and hoping for a jackpot while they've got a massive financial hole in their pocket. It's absolutely wild to me that someone will spend hours researching a speculative tech stock or a new cryptocurrency, hoping for a 10% return, while they have a credit card balance sitting right there charging them 22% interest. That's not investing. That's a math tragedy. It's like trying to fill a bucket that has several massive holes in the bottom. You can pour water in as fast as you want, but you're never going to see the level rise until you plug the leaks. My name's Moz, and I'll be the first to admit that I spend way too much of my life thinking about the mechanics of money, the psychology of wealth, and why so many of us are determined to do everything in the exact wrong order. I want to help you avoid that frustration, because building wealth isn't actually a mystery, but it does require a bit of discipline and a very specific sequence that most people find boring.
If you look at the landscape of personal finance today, the numbers are honestly a bit terrifying. We're living in a world where data shows nearly 1 in 3 people doesn't even have a basic emergency fund. When you look at the median amount saved for a rainy day, it's hovering around $500. Think about that for a second. $500 doesn't even cover a set of new tires for most cars, and it's certainly not covering a month of rent or a mortgage payment if things go sideways. Yet these are often the same people who come to me asking if they should be day trading or buying into the latest moon coin. It's like someone asking for advice on which Ferrari they should buy when they don't have enough money to fix the transmission on the beat-up sedan they're currently driving. There is an optimal order for your money that can save you tens of thousands of dollars in interest and lost opportunities over your lifetime. But it starts with the unglamorous foundation that nobody wants to talk about on social media.
The reason getting this order wrong is so devastating is because of something called opportunity cost. Every single month you delay paying off a high-interest debt is a month where that debt is compounding faster than almost any investment on the planet. If you're building a house, you wouldn't start by picking out the expensive light fixtures or the marble countertops if the foundation was cracked and the roof was already leaking. That's exactly what you're doing when you invest in a taxable account before you've handled your high-interest debt or maximized your tax-advantaged options. You're essentially handing your future wealth over to the bank and the IRS on a silver platter. Before you even think about the stock market, you have to build that psychological and financial safety net known as the emergency fund. I know it sounds dull and it doesn't give you that rush of dopamine you get from seeing a green candle on a stock chart, but it is the single most important tool in your arsenal. It's what prevents you from having to sell your investments at the worst possible time, like during a market crash, just because your water heater exploded or you had an unexpected medical bill. Now, everyone wants to know exactly how much they need in that fund. The standard advice is 3 to 6 months of expenses, but that's a huge range that doesn't account for individual lives. If you've got a rock-solid job with a government pension, maybe 3 months is fine. If you're a freelancer or work in a volatile industry, you might want 6 or even 12 months. But don't let the big number scare you into doing nothing. I always tell people to start by just getting $1,000 in the bank as fast as humanly possible. That $1,000 covers most of the annoyance emergencies. Once you hit that, aim for 1 full month of expenses. It turns out that having even just $2,000 in the bank can increase your sense of financial well-being by over 20%. It's not life-changing money in terms of buying a yacht, but it's life-changing in terms of your stress levels. It's the difference between a car breakdown being a minor inconvenience and it being a total catastrophe that ruins your month. Once that buffer is set, we have to talk about the financial cancer that is high-interest debt. I categorize this as anything over about 8% interest. Credit card debt is the primary villain here. With average rates hitting 22% or higher, carrying a balance is like trying to run a marathon with a backpack full of bricks. Mathematically, paying off a 22% debt is exactly the same as finding an investment that gives you a guaranteed, tax-free 22% return. You won't find that in the stock market. Not even the legendary Warren Buffett averages 22% every year. If you have $5,000 in debt and you're only making minimum payments,
you're going to end up paying thousands in interest that could have been compounding for your retirement instead. The most efficient way to handle this is the avalanche method. Rank your debts by interest rate and attack the highest one first while paying minimums on the rest. It's the smartest move for your wallet, even if the progress feels slow at first.
However, there is one major, massive exception to the debt-first rule. If your employer offers a matching contribution to your retirement plan, you should absolutely grab that money first, even if you're still working through your debt. Why? Because an employer match is a 100% return on your money immediately. If you put in $1 and your boss puts in $1, you've doubled your money before it even hits the market. Even with a 22% interest rate on a credit card, you can't turn down a 100% guaranteed gain. It's literally free money lying on the sidewalk. Take only what you need to get the full match, then pivot all your extra cash back to killing that debt. Just make sure you understand your company's vesting schedule so you know how long you have to stay to keep those funds. This foundation, emergency fund, high-interest debt, and the employer match is the bedrock. Without these, you're building your financial house on quicksand. Once the foundation is solid, we move into what I like to call the tax optimization zone. This is where things get a bit more technical, but also much more exciting. Most people skip straight to a regular brokerage account because it's easy, but they're ignoring the incredible power of an individual retirement account, or IRA. An IRA gives you way more control than your employer's 401k. Most corporate plans are filled with expensive mutual funds and hidden fees that eat your returns like termites. With an IRA, you can choose low-cost index funds that charge almost nothing. Over 30 or 40 years, the difference between a 1% fee and a 0.05% fee can be the difference of an entire decade's worth of salary. For 2026, the limits are generous, and if you're over 50, you get those catch-up contributions, which I like to think of as a little reward for getting older and wiser. The big question I always get is whether to go with a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA. It really comes down to one simple yet annoying question. Do you want to pay taxes now or later? Traditional accounts give you a tax break today, but you pay the piper when you retire. Roth accounts require you to pay taxes now, but the money grows and comes out completely tax-free later. If you're early in your career and likely in a lower tax bracket than you will be later, Roth is usually the winner. If you're at the peak of your earning years and need a break from the IRS right now, traditional might be the move. If you can't decide, there's nothing wrong with splitting the difference. Having both gives you tax diversification, which is a fancy way of saying you have options when you're ready to start spending that money in retirement. And then there's the secret weapon that almost everyone overlooks, the health savings account, or HSA. If you have a high-deductible health plan, the HSA is arguably the most powerful investment vehicle in existence. It has a triple tax advantage that sounds too good to be true, but it's totally legal. Your contributions are tax-deductible, the money grows tax-free, and here's the best part. Withdrawals for medical expenses are tax-free. No other account does that. The pro tip here is to treat it like a secondary retirement account. If you can afford to pay for your current doctor visits out of pocket, let the money in the HSA stay invested in the market. Keep your receipts. There is no expiration date on when you can reimburse yourself. You could pay for a checkup today, keep the digital receipt, and 20 years from now, pull that money out of the HSA tax-free to fund a vacation. Once you hit 65, the HSA acts just like a traditional IRA for non-medical expenses. But since medical costs in retirement are almost a certainty, that tax-free pool of money is like a superpower. Once you've maxed out your IRA and your HSA, then and only then should you go back to your 401k and start contributing beyond the employer match. By this point, you are saving at a level that puts you in the top tier of all earners. You're shielding tens of thousands of dollars from the IRS every year, and that money is compounding silently in the background. It's only after you've exhausted all of these tax-advantaged buckets that we finally arrive at the taxable brokerage account. This is the Wild West where people usually want to start. While these accounts offer total flexibility, you can take the money out whenever you want for a house down payment or an early retirement, they come with a tax drag. Every dividend and every capital gain is a chance for the government to take a bite out of your growth. Over 30 years, that tax drag can cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars compared to a sheltered account.
I know this sequence isn't as thrilling as hearing about the next stock that's going to go to the moon, but wealth isn't built on excitement. It's built on consistency and efficiency. If you follow this order, emergency fund, debt elimination, employer match, IRA, HSA, maxing out the 401k, and finally, taxable accounts, you aren't just saving money, you're engineering a future where you have total freedom. Most people spend their lives reacting to financial fires because they didn't build the foundation correctly. By the time they realize they should have been more strategic, they've lost years of compounding. Don't be that person. Be the person who does the boring stuff right today so that your future self can live a life that everyone else thinks is just luck. It's not luck, it's the sequence. Stick to it, stay disciplined, and I promise you'll see the progress you've been looking for.